the Carolinas.
Right. All right, I figured as much, right? I put two and two together, and I go, yeah, okay. All right, so now it says on your website that your first lesson was in a back room at I can't believe it, in a back room at Office Depot.
It was. So
was that with Quigley, or was that with somebody else?
It was with Quigley, yeah. So David and I happened to be working at this Office Depot that was in Charlotte, North Carolina. He was in school, and I was just about to start going to college. And I walked into the back room, and this was a weird Office Depot. It wasn't like a big one; it was a smaller one. So our back room was pretty small. I see him in the back, and he's like cutting knives and doing all this stuff. I was like, "What is that?" And I was 21, 22 at the time. And I'd never done martial arts before. And then I was like, oh, man, can you teach me? Not knowing any of the protrols or anything, just being like, oh, hey, can you teach me? And he was like, yeah, sure, because I need a partner. And so that's pretty much how it started with him. And, man, like, it was crazy because it was just us in the back of an Office Depot, like, I started with technically knife and Kali with just cutting up boxes and stuff because they gave us box cutters. So, we had the weapon.
But that's vaguely similar to me. It reminds me a little bit of Guro Ron's story with Larry Lindenman, huh?
Yeah.
Like being good friends and being training partners and what have you, right?
Yeah, and David and I have kind of come up so he started training long before I did. He was an instructor at the time under Sifu Scott Shields, and so he was an instructor under him and had met Guru Dan, had been training for well over a decade, I think, at that point. And so, but we both met Guru Ron at the same time, and so we both kind of come up the ranks through Mars with Guru Ron, pretty much at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, because that was something that I needed you to clarify for me. Because it says also that then you trained with David in his backyard and apartment and what have you. So I wasn't sure if where your involvement with Scott Shields was that very soon after or a little bit afterwards or what?
Yeah. So I started training with Sifu Scott Shields in 2008, actually around the same time, maybe like 3 or 4 months before I met Guru Ron. What happened was David moved up to Chicago, and I was like, well, where did you train? Because I want to continue doing this. I want to continue learning. And he told me there, and I didn't live near Matthews, North Carolina. It's right outside Charlotte, but I live like right in the center. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just drive out there. And I would do that, and I started training with Sifu Scott Shields back in 2008, and I trained at his academy for about 3.5, 4 years. I got my first instructorship under him in Junban, Jeet Kune Do. I think I got that in 2000. I want to say 2010, 2011. I don't remember the exact date.
Right. You mean there's no date on the certificate?
There is. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Listen, I spent 3 hours last weekend in storage, and I actually put my hands on my instructorship certificates from Sifu Dan, and they're so old that the date is like faded away or what have you. So yeah. Okay. So. And actually, the reason why I asked you that about the date on the certificate is because you represent to me like the modern era of the JKD clan. I mean, I was actually going to ask you this question. I'd made a note of it towards the end, but I'll ask you now. As somebody who came in 2006, so that's fully 40 years after the opening, close to the opening of the Los Angeles Chinatown School. 33 years after Bruce Lee passed away, what have you, that kind of thing. So what does that have any effect on you at all?
Yeah. So, so I started, a little bit with Kali knife, but then went straight into Jeet Kune Do, and that's where I've kind of stayed, and not stayed, but that's where I put a lot of my focus. And it's interesting coming up through it now, right? Because I'm still, I still consider myself like that junior student who I see all the people that have been in it for decades and decades, and it's hard to feel. It's hard to feel like I've gotten anywhere with it, even though, like, if that makes sense. I'm now an associate instructor under Sifu Ron, and I still feel like there's such a huge gap there. And I look at like Sifu Ron and that kind of generation, and then the previous generation with like Paul Vunek and Sifu Burton Richardson, and then I'm kind of stuck in the Inasanto ideology there, just because of who I've been associated with, and and of course Guru Dan and his extreme wealth of knowledge. It always, I kind of feel like I'm still that junior student, so that's how I feel in the modern era. And then I'm sure I would be interested to ask even the next, if I'm in the modern generation with it, the next generation, like my students at Metrolina Martial Arts, like how they feel about the art.
Right. Talking about them, let me ask you this. Are
Sure.
your student, because this was another thing that I thought of asking you towards the end, but now my timeline is all screwed up.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Are your students aware of the let's call it early developmental history, the role that North Carolina plays in the early developmental history of Jeet Kune Do?
So I tried to highlight Sifu Larry Hartzell and his, since he was from Charlotte originally, and that's where like the Great Smoky Mountain camps and things like that with Guru Dan happened. But I try to convey that in what I teach, and then when Sifu Ron's at my school and he talks about him, since that's kind of the area. So they're probably not as aware as I probably should make them be. Yeah.
I mean, because I wish I could tell you exactly where you could go find it, but they're somewhere in a magazine or in some book. It might even be in the Inasano Jeet Kune Do Art and Philosophy book, where it talks about the only place outside of Los Angeles in like 1972 was Charlotte, North Carolina.
Right.
That's the only place that you could find legitimate Jeet Kune Do. So, I mean, that's definitely, to my way of thinking, that's something that should definitely be played up, by all the schools in North Carolina, for sure.
I agree with you, because it's one of those things that, it's not talked about a lot. Everyone talks about, the Chinatown school, Oakland and Seattle, and they don't talk about, the other students, and where, like you said, the only other school is in Charlotte, North Carolina with Larry Hartzell. So it's definitely, I think, kind of a missed point.
Do people come to your school for Jeet Kune Do, or do they just come because, well, it's another karate school in the area, or what have you? What have you noticed?
So, man, running a martial arts school is an interesting thing, and it's never something I thought I would fall into.
Right. Yeah. We'll get to that.
Yeah. But leaving that aside, I would say out of 100 students coming in, or 100 prospects coming in, I would say very few are aware of Jeet Kune Do, despite that being, where the logo came from, my logo, the Metrolina logo, and where my background and all that. They're all in kind of like, they're like, ooh, a karate school, or ooh, a martial arts school. I want to train there. So
right. And what do they? So do they come? Is it the fitness aspect that they're looking for, the self-defense aspect? What is it?
So my school is kind of an interesting. I target an interesting avatar, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
So, I focus more on self-defense, and I focus more on kind of the hobbyists, the ones that want to come in, have a good workout, so the fitness,
Right.
and that want to learn new skills. But ultimately, I'm not training the next UFC fighter. It's just not what.
Yeah, but you guys spend a lot of time in competition, don't you?
Yeah, we do compete a lot. Like, so we're healthy in competition, but we're where we stand at the moment. We have kind of have the fighters, the younger guys that are wanting to fight, or even some of the older guys that are wanting to do like jiu-jitsu competitions and things like that. I definitely ask them to, or not ask them to. I definitely implore them to. I still try to compete every now and again as well. So it's one of those things where I think it's important to test it and have a good time. But my main core audience is looking for learning a new skill like martial arts and fitness.
Right. And what do they gravitate towards?
So that's.
I gotta tell you something about the class schedule on your website.
Okay.
I can't read how long the classes are because there's no end time. There's the start time.
Forever.
And
so thank you. I will look at that. So that's a good question. My Jeet Kune Do and my Muay Thai classes are 45 minutes long. And then my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class is an hour long, and then my Filipino Kali class is an hour long.
Okay, why is that?
So because I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, like so my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes are an hour to allow time for more active rolling. And then my Kali is for the same reason, because we actually like to spar it. We get the HEMA helmets and we get protective gear on and we go. It's one of those things where, and I know Kali gets a bad rap for this, and this just shows the lack of understanding of it, is that all the combos and everything, you'd never use that in a real fight, as if people are going out fighting like that anyway. But so I try to kind of highlight, like, hey, let's try and work some of this stuff that we're actually learning, so that way it's not just like, oh, look, we can do Heaven 6 for forever. So that, and then the Muay Thai, the way I have that right after Jeet Kune Do, because I get kind of the people that are more focused to like, oh, the Kung Fu and like Bruce Lee is really cool, so they come into that, and then they stick around for the Muay Thai. So then when they spar the other Muay Thai guys who are just traditional like kickboxers, they have such a much better time because they can actually start applying some of like the different trapping and things that we show.
Right.
So
yeah, well, but I mean, I'm just an old timer, so maybe with all the fancy Squarespace templates that people use for their websites now, there must be something that I don't know about. But I couldn't read what time they ended. So I was trying to work out. Okay, so the orange bar ends right here, and that looks like it's kind of in between 6:45 and 7 p.m. So maybe or whatever. That's
a good point, because I think what my website is a template from a company, and then my schedule is another template from another company, and I think it's just the intermeshing of the two has caused kind of a confusion there.
Yeah. Now, it's coding that you were. Is it coding that? Remember, we had a discussion.
Yeah. So I have kind of a technology background. I work in software right now as a quality assurance analyst, and that's my day job. And at night, I'm Batman, and I also teach at a martial arts school. But so coding and all that stuff is, and I used to do websites back in the day. I made Sifu Scott Shield's website back in like 2009, and then he upgraded way after that, like a couple years after that. But like that's something that I'm familiar with. So I made my first website for Metrolina Martial Arts, and that kept me going for about 4 years. And then finally, I was like, I can't keep this up. I can't update it. I can't do what I want to do with it. So I finally got a company to do it for me.
Okay, so all right. What does a website, a modern martial art website, absolutely need in 2020? What does it absolutely need?
It needs a request info button. So anytime we talk about it, it needs that that somewhere, or like the form to fill out. And the reason being, as a martial arts school owner, it's important to have a filter for leads to come through. Because if they look at the website and they get all the answers, they're never going to message you. And they'll always wait for whatever it is that triggers them to come in. But starting the conversation with, you know what, I can't read the schedule. Let me put my info
right.
put it in, and then they'll call me, and I'm like, oh, well, here, now we can talk about the schedule. And now let's see what you're actually interested in, and get you in the doors and have a good time. So
that request button, what sends a text to your phone, or
it sends so like so my old website, I had it set up where if it did that, it would put all the information in a spreadsheet so I could keep it there. So if I forget to call you, I've got it there. I'm like, did I call that person? And then it sends a text. Nowadays, it'll actually call me and say, hey, Ed is looking at your website. Do you want to call him now? And I can hit 1 and it'll send it's crazy. Like,
Well, hey, it's what it takes, How do you find the energy to do the day job and then be Batman and then run martial? Because you got to be there. Don't you teach the kids at 5 p.m. or something?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So so how do you find the energy for all this?
That's an excellent question, and it's hard to answer because I don't know. Like, I wake up to go to work. Work starts at 8 a.m. and I go that until I absolutely have to leave to go then teach kids. And then on my kids' class days are my long days where I'm teaching from 5 p.m. until 9:30 p.m. and then I go home and repeat. So I really like teaching. I really, really enjoy it. I didn't think it was a passion of mine, and actually until I found martial arts, and I was like, wow, I really like this. I really like helping people. So it doesn't cost me as much energy per se as like if it was something I was dreading. Like, and I try to keep a good balance. So when I'm teaching, I'm not necessarily personally training, but there are days where I push myself harder than the others. So my energy is spent more on teaching, and then I can kind of balance it in that way, if that makes sense. So and then some days I have morning classes where I'm up at 6:45 to teach at 7 a.m. and then I'm going until 9:30 p.m. And those days are the hardest. But again, like I feel like it's so worth it because the students have such a good time and I have a good time teaching them. The time goes by so quickly on the mat.
Right.
And my ultimate goal with it is to leave the software world and do martial arts.
I was going to get to that too, because I was looking at the website, I was reading the stuff, I looked at some videos of you and what have you, and I go, yeah, this guy wants to do this full time.
Yeah,
it kind of shows.
I'm glad it shows, but I definitely want to transition to it. I have such a good time on the mat. I don't mind doing the monotonous business stuff, which is really telling, right? Like there's some things I really don't like and I pass it off, but like for the most part, like I really enjoy it. And that's why it does zap me. Like, I'm not going to lie. Friday nights I get home after the dojo and I will sleep for like 12 hours just to recoup from the whole week. So my Saturdays are like my weekends are pretty sacred in terms of like, I don't have any classes and I only do like one like dojo event a month because I am married and I need to spend time with my wife and I think she would appreciate that.
You better.
Yeah. And because, she's a flight attendant, so she's gone during the week too. So we're both hustling during the week. And so weekend is our sacred like time. So like when
who does she fly for?
The company that she flies for is SkyWest, so it's a regional
a regional carrier. Yeah. Okay.
So
nice.
And it makes for traveling to seminars and stuff really good. But a lot of times I'm really tired, so it's always a balance. So we're in Austin. She came with me, and so we can still spend time together even though I'm training most of the day.
Right. Well, you don't need me to give you any marital advice, but I'll just tell you this from my own experience: do not do what I did when I had travel privileges. I spent most of my time following Dan and Asano. Don't do that. Don't do that. See the world, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, see the world, right? Balicki, I mean, and Asano's not going to be there forever, right? But Balicki's going to be around for a long time. So dump that guy every once in a while.
That's what he tells me. Like every time he's like, "Why are you here?" Like, you know,
see the world, man.
It's one of those things too, where like I think last year I went to a seminar every month for the first 8 or 9 months of the year, and I was like, I think I'm cashing too many points on this. I gotta pull it back. So. This year I've been better. This is the first time I've actually left to go. We're only 3 months in. I know. She's only 3 months in. The first time. That's pretty good.
Yeah. She's not keeping score at all.
Oh, not at all. Yeah. So, yeah, he tells me, Guro Ron tells me not to mess it up all the time, and it's definitely a goal. And yeah.
Hey, I want to take something else from your website. It's in reference to the first class at Office Depot and what have you. It says not the most common of starts, but Ed fell in love having enjoyed old kung fu films of the past.
Yes.
Yeah, you were really into that stuff.
I was. So I loved Jackie Chan and I loved Jet Li. Like that was the era, like the 90s, like the late 90s, like kung fu stuff. I would eat up. My favorite kung fu movie, even still to this date, is Legend of the Drunken Master. And I saw the kicking guy, the guy that did all the kicks. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Right. And so I would watch that, and then here I met David, and he's like, you should watch Bruce Lee movies. Like, I mean, these are good, but Bruce Lee's where it's at. And I was like, I've never seen any of them. They look old. And I was like, and then he was offended, which makes sense. Right. Yes. And I was like, okay. So I watched them, and they're obviously they're dated, but man, I was like, oh, that's different. That's awesome. And I was in. I dived right in, and
Yeah, see, that to me, that's like that. It's incredible because what you just talked about there is timelessness, right? Yeah, they're obviously dated. But when you see them, it's the same impact as somebody who saw it 40 years ago. It's the same 100%. Impact.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
It's one of those things like watching watching his movements and how he like controlled the screen, and like all of that is still conveyed today. Sure, the story's wonky, but man, that man had some presence, and it captures you.
Do you think? Hey, where did you come in on the whole Quentin Tarantino controversy over the?
I was. I can't. It was one of those things. I haven't even seen the movie. Like Guro Ron told me about it, and a couple people come like, "What did you think of the Bruce Lee scene?" And I was like, "It sounds bad," and it's like. I'm upset, and I like Quentin Tarantino. His movies are unique, and I like that. But at the same time, I'm like, come on, he can't defend himself. What are you doing? Come on.
Yeah, well, it is touchy, that kind of stuff. Hey, what else? What did it mean also? Because I found a lot of really interesting wording on your website, right? So I thought, you know what, I'm going to use this stuff to question him. Sure. It says, let me find it here. He was first introduced to Jeet Kune Do Rebel with the knife, right? But then it said. Oh shoot, I didn't make a note of where. Maybe you can remember where in the website this comes from, but it says this would be the kindling of a better life and health for Ed.
Yes.
Yeah. So give me the backstory on that.
Okay, absolutely. So I'm going to go way back, and then we'll build up for it. But when I was 6 years old, I was electrically shocked, and that's how I lost my fingers and have some scarring. Okay. So that kind of made my life more sedentary than I think it most kids had my age. So like I played soccer, but that was it. Like, and once I hit like 5th grade, I didn't do any sports.
Okay.
And I graduated high school, and I'm 5'8" on a good day. And I think I was at 220 pounds. And so I was pretty round. There's a really famous picture of me that I tell my students if they find that I will not be happy. But I'm in my marching band outfit from high school, so not the greatest start. And I am large. I am very large looking. Okay. And so finding martial arts, and like when I met David, I was still heavy. So finding martial arts, I found a way to exercise to where I could lose weight and feel so much better and be able to do all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And whereas, 2 years before having met David, I was, eating myself to,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would start running. I would start going to the gym and doing all that stuff. And I didn't do that before. And that's how it kind of opened up. Like, in order to perform the actions that are required of you,
right,
then you have to lose weight and get in better shape. And that's what it did.
So that's where the passion for sharing with others comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Having recognized yourself, mm-hmm. what it does for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's one of those things that it had such an impact for me, not just because, like Kung Fu movies are cool, but it had such an impact for me because it helped me so much. It changed how I live. And that, I think, can't be undersold. I probably do a very poor job of selling it at the dojo. Like, this is why I do it. It's definitely that can't be. You can't ignore that. And I have a couple students that have had that transformation themselves, where they came in, they were overweight, they started training, they wanted to compete, they competed at the heavier weight class, got them not demolished, but didn't have a good time. Mm-hmm. So they lost even more and lost weight. And now they look totally different. They act totally different. They do more things, and I couldn't be happier for them because that's what you want. You want that open door for them.
Have you had anybody whose physician has taken them off medication because of their improved physical conditioning?
So I've had a couple students. Yeah, so I had one student who had pulmonary embolism, and had to be on blood thinners and all this stuff. Yeah. And they came back to training. Like, they had it while training with me. Like, they were like a month in, had it, and then were out for a couple months, but came back because he realized like the different things that were affecting him. Like, it was helping his mood and helping that type of things. So he came back in because he wanted to. He came back into Kali. He was in my jiu-jitsu program. He came back into Kali, and he was like, I love this. I couldn't get enough of it. And he's gotten back into that better health, and he's taking less meds. And he's just, So to answer the question the longest way possible, nice. I've had a couple students do that.
Good. Do you have the programs? Like what's the fee structure? Is there because the reason why I asked this is because and Glenn, my one of my top students, Glenn, was with me last week in storage. Right, for 3 hours we're in storage, and I found the old Inasano Academy fee schedule, and it was like $45 a month for once a week.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think it went past $100 a month, but that was like 5 classes a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So what's your structure like? Is it per program, number of times, or anything like that?
So I have it set up by art. So if you want to come in, let's say you want to train Jeet Kune Do or Muay Thai, or one of those two, right? Just one art. It's around $125 a month. And that gets you access to all those classes that are on the schedule in that art. And then if you want to upgrade to multiple arts, it's only a small increase. So let's say you want to do 2 arts. Like most common is that they'll either do like Jeet Kune Do or Muay Thai, or they'll do Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It goes up from there to about $135. And then if you want to do everything, which I have 4 programs for the adults, it's $145 roughly. And we have different like sign up things that we can do, and you get all your equipment to start. Like you'll get a gi and all that stuff if you come in, and that's kind of how I have it, structured. Like if one person came in.
Yeah. Now I did notice from photographs and what have you, you've got your people in belts. Which program is that?
So I kind of made my own based on Guro Ron's curriculum. Okay. So I took his curriculum of beginners levels 1, 2, 3, 4, intermediates 1, 2, 3, 4, and advanced 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I split them off into essentially belt ranks. So a white belt would be like equivalent to beginner 1 and 2. And then the next belt, yellow, would be, beginner 3, 4. And then it would basically break off to that, like in that way. And then the stripe, so my college program, I'm trying something different and I'm hoping it works out. Because Guro Ron was talking to me about how Guro Nasanto would use like tape on the stick to kind of have different colors. And I was like, I'm going to use those same colors because it's the colors of the Filipino flag, and I'm going to put them on the belt to indicate stripes when they've completed a theme of the month, and it coincides with having actual curriculum on that level. So, for example, my highest ranking is Dennis, and he is a blue belt. So if in the month we're our monthly theme of knives, if we don't get any of his stuff, he won't get a stripe, unfortunately. But I do have it where I try and teach on multiple levels, and it's difficult, but in the beginning, the first level, let's say knife, okay, you need to know, the abecedarios 1 through 5. You need to know the carenza. You need to know basic things, but then, okay, let's go to Dikit template 2, number 3. And that's what you need to know for yours. So you build all the way up to there. And then I have 1 month out of my cycle where it's kind of a hodgepodge, where let's get people ready to test. So let's talk about what's on your curriculum. What are we missing? What do we need to work on, and go from there. That's kind of how I have it laid out. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I always find it interesting to talk to different people about, the structure of their curriculum, then class structure and that type of thing. Because now I can't remember, do all the different levels, if it's the Jeet Kune Do class, do all the different levels train at the same time?
Yeah, I don't have any at the moment. I don't have any like advanced classes. It's a complete level thing. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah. I remember talking with Cass Magda about that, and Cass, and he said, "Hey, here's what you do. You just teach to the highest level all the time, right? So if you've got people who've been there for a month and people who've been there for a year, teach to the year. These guys will catch up." Right?
Yes, and they catch up fast too, because that's what I've been doing with my Muay Thai program. Is like, okay, we're working a kind of more of the STX curriculum from Coach Eric Paulson. So we're working more of that stuff, which is much more complex than, okay, jab, cross, rear kick, jab, cross, left kick. It can be simplified that way, but like, if I'm like, okay, here we're doing this combo, you get the slip, you hit the head, and you hit the body, and you do all that, they'll get it. They'll get what they need. And the more they're exposed to it, especially if they can come multiple times a week, they'll keep building on those skills. Like, it's always recommended that you have like 2 classes a week at minimum. And I kind of build on them every week, or not every week, every like 2 days, it'll start to build from there.
Okay. All right. The other thing I noticed on the website, it said something about after, where did it say? After going to Japan. And I was like, okay, so was that a martial art thing? Was that a personal thing? Because now that I know about the flight attendant stuff, right, now I'm wondering, right, what that was about.
So when I went to college, my degree is in Japanese studies. So with that, so
that's why you call it a dojo.
That's why I call it a dojo. It's because it's like my Japanese background's coming out. I get so excited when because Coach Paulson, when he begins and ends his CSW class, he says his Japanese, honjitsu no keiko o hajimemasu, or honjitsu no keiko o owarimasu. Begin and end each class. And I'm like, I get to use my degree. And because during my day, I never get to use it. But while I was in college, I went and lived in Japan. I lived there twice. I was there once during the big earthquake in 2011. And then I was there again in 2012 to kind of complete my year.
Okay. Why Japanese studies?
Okay. That's a good question. So when I was younger, I watched a TV show called Dragon Ball Z. And
you're one of those.
I'm one of those. Yeah.
I'm just teasing.
And I watched it and I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's totally different than any of the other shows that are on television. And I was hooked in.
Yeah.
One thing, and my dad always would tell me this, is that I have kind of an obsessive personality in terms of like certain things. Like when I like something, I'm all in. Yeah. And so I was that way with Japanese. I was that way with martial arts. Mm-hmm. And I've been that way with like pretty much any hobby. I'm like, I'm all in. And I can't be stopped until I hit a point where I am stopped. And so I watched the anime and I loved it. And I would get all the comics with it, the manga, and I would just go full tilt. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I call it, like, I had that Japanese background and went to Japan, is because I that was my original obsession, and I felt like I needed to complete it. And so when I went to college, that was kind of my focus.
Okay. And it also says that Ed found himself searching for a competitive outlet for his learning and sought after a school in which he could train for competition. So where did you end up?
So I kind of bounced around a little bit. I left Scott Shields in May of 2011 and went to Trinity Martial Arts, which was a mixed martial arts school in Indian Trail, North Carolina, which is just south of that. It's no longer around. The school is, and I kind of hopped from there to there, and then I stopped training at schools and would just, go where I could, and to try and find a way to fight. So I competed in an IKF point kickboxing match in 2009, and I got mollywopped. And I was like, and then nothing against Sifu Shields. He is legit, and he was legit, and his school was awesome. But I felt I needed to kind of branch out a little bit. So I trained a little bit with one of his students named Jason Outlaw at Trinity Martial Arts. And I trained with another one of his students, Mark Kukro, up at Integrated Martial Arts in Harrisburg. Yeah. So I kind of bounced around between other Sifu Shield students and still train with Sifu Scott to kind of, find what I was looking for in terms of competition. And it wasn't until I opened Metrolina Martial Arts with my counterpart, Bill Graff, who's up in Wisconsin now. We opened the school together, and then we were like, well, now we can train whatever we want, however we want, whenever we want.
Yeah. Okay. I looked up those guys. So Graff is in Wisconsin now. And where's Quigley?
Quigley is in Los Angeles, and he should be training regularly with Guru Dan.
Okay.
So he's at the Inosanto Academy.
Okay. All right. Oh, I just saw something about it was Joe Rogan was talking to Adam Curry, and they were talking about Austin, and they were talking about the scooters all over Austin.
I think they're talking. Charlotte has the same things. They're these like lime scooters or something else. And so these things are a plague. What happens is people ride them wherever and then just dump them in somebody's yard when they're not supposed to. And that's just where they are. Like it is fascinating. I haven't seen any here. I'm on kind of the north end of Austin, and so I haven't seen any locally, but I know exactly what they're talking about.
Okay, yeah, we have them. We have them in Coconut Grove and down on Brickell Avenue here, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, I have to walk. Yeah, when I go to my client on Brickell, I got to walk over them all the time. It
Oh
is
yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah. So you mentioned Sifu Paulson. So you are ranked under him as well, right?
Yes, I'm a coach level 1 in CSW under
Okay.
him.
And Kukro is Pedro Sauer jiu-jitsu black belt. So is your
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu lineage from them or
Nope. No.
no?
So my jiu-jitsu lineage is from Carlos Machado. We're a Carlos
Okay.
Machado school.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Mark Kukro is I hope I don't get this wrong. I think he's a first or second degree under Master Pedro Sauer, and he has like his school. Him and I are technically competitors because his school and my school are only like 20 minutes apart. He's in Harrisburg. We're in the same county, and I'm in Concord.
Right.
And you know, he's got such a cool like his school is really like powerful too with his jiu-jitsu skill and everything. So it's one of those things where if I didn't, and I mean this with all due honesty too, if I didn't have a school, I would train there. But because I have a school,
Right. Yeah.
So and I when I was with Mark, he I think had just started with the Pedro Sauer Association, so I don't know how far along he was at that time, and I don't want to misspeak for him. But my jiu-jitsu, I trained a bit of jiu-jitsu with Sifu Shields in American Combat Jiu-Jitsu, and then I didn't do it again for like 5 or 6 years, and then started again locally in Concord under a black belt that I had hired, and I had to let him go because of other issues. So we were kind of like Ronin. And so I chose Master Carlos Machado because no one else in the area had that lineage. And I always like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, just like Jeet Kune Do, has its inner politics. And I wanted to be Switzerland. I want to have my own thing going on where it doesn't affect anyone around me. And I just don't want to participate in politics. If people want to come and train at like open mat or during my class or whatever, I don't care. I don't care what school you train at or who you're from. I just want to hang out and train with different people.
Right.
And that's how I like to have the school. That's why I chose Master Carlos. And plus Master Carlos is awesome. So that's another reason.
Yeah, well, yeah. and he trained Chuck Norris, so
Exactly.
Right. So like your colleague, who I will, we're actually a bunch of us are going out to dinner tomorrow. Anthony and Randy and me and some of my guys and what have you. So like him, you are like Randy Ciordia. You are a serial cross trainer, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that what JKD means to you? Cross training in multiple arts, or does it mean something else, or what would you say?
So I think Jeet Kune Do to me is an expression of oneself in terms of martial arts. So I think I kind of live in this perpetual dichotomy of I want to train everything and learn everything. Plus I want to train things that work for me. Yeah. And I have I have from Guro Ron a large portion of the Jeet Kune Do material that, of course, he got from Sigung Dan Inosanto and Sijo. And so I try to teach that as it was taught to me. And then I try to take what works best for me and continue going forward with that. So to me, I don't because I know concepts people get a lot of flack because they train in all these different things and it just becomes this hodgepodge and it's not simple. And while I agree that yes, that is it, I also look at it like, well, martial arts has an intrinsic value that is it's supposed to be fun. And I know Greg Nelson was recently, like a couple of his posts on Instagram of talking about that if it's not fun, why are you doing it? Right. And I kind of go back to that. Yes, it's super serious and, you have to train because, you're going to get attacked on the street and all that. And I understand that and acknowledge that. However, if you're not having fun training it and it's just grueling and beating you up and every day, then you're not going to do it for that long. Like not to say that like you don't like, it's like jujitsu is one of those things that it took me a long time to like it, and I just kind of stuck in it and stuck with it. And I like it now. I have fun. I roll with everyone and have a great time. But I spent 2 years getting smashed, and I still do get smashed. That hasn't changed. But now I can look at it differently.
Right.
But I have fun with it, and I think that's an important part that people forget. That yes, it's all serious and it's all serious business, but it should also be fun. And for me, that's why I train in all those different things. I just had a session with Professor Nikolai Sanyak in Savat, and I trained in Muay Thai, and I've trained with Guro Ron in MMA and Shuto, and Coach Paulson in CSW and STX, and all this stuff just because it's fun and I like learning and I like being able to provide stuff for my students and help share it. So that to me is one side, and then the other side is like, what is simple, what works, what are the best attributes, what do I need to train to be the most effective fighter I need to be. So it's trouble. It's hard because you have those two. They feel like non-overlapping magisteria, but they do overlap, in my opinion.
Do you think that dichotomy needs to be handled, needs to be solved, or do you think you can lead a happy life with it?
Me personally, I think I can live a happy life with it. But again, with how Jeet Kune Do is with expression, some people will look at that and be like, it's just clouding the mess, or you're looking at it it's too cloudy. And I agree that it can be viewed that way. So it's tough because, like, let's say as the older I get, I think Guru Dan has said it, and then Sifu Ron has said it was like every 5 to 10 years your whole game changes because you get older. And I haven't been training nearly as long as a lot of people, and I feel it. I feel like, I can't do X, Y, and Z anymore, so now I'm doing A, B, C.
Yeah.
But I can still teach X, Y, Z, and I think that's a part that they forget. Like, you can be a good fighter, and a good fighter, has like their tool, their daggers that they can use and pull out and be real quick with and efficient. But the instructor has the other side where they have to teach all these different types of people, different types of daggers and knives and whatnot to use. And so for me personally, I like being on the instructor side so I can help them be better. Yeah. So I think that's important.
Yeah. I discovered a couple of weeks ago that I can only kick people in the head now if they're a particular height.
Right. Yeah.
There was a time where it didn't matter. I could kick you in the head. So, and the first time I heard Sifu Nasano say that, I didn't believe him.
I didn't either. Yeah, I was like, that's not going to be me.
Yeah.
Then here we are.
Yeah. So if somebody at your school did sit you down and say, okay, tell me what Jeet Kune Do is, right? What do you say to them? What would you say to them?
So I would tell them that Jeet Kune Do is not a style, but a philosophy. And the philosophy is the absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add specifically what is your own. Built upon Junfang Kung Fu or Junfang Jeet Kune Do, which is Bruce Lee's Kung Fu and Bruce Lee's martial art. This is the basis of which we form that. And once you have that basis, you can't have the Jeet Kune Do without that. But you can also not use any of that and still do Jeet Kune Do. That's where it gets troublesome, because it's, they're like, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu person. I only know grappling. I've never striked a day in my life. I do Jeet Kune Do because, I absorb what's useful and reject what's useless. So I think having those building blocks of the Junfang Kung Fu and Junfang Jeet Kune Do, like what was originally taught in this year and this year, having a knowledge of that and understanding of that, I think is important to why Bruce Lee went the way he did with Jeet Kune Do, and not understanding even nowadays. So, for example, the biggest analogy I use for my students now is how Jeet Kune Do should evolve. Is you look at the ubiquitous nature of the UFC and wrestling, and how much more so because with the internet and the information age, everyone knows now how to shoot a double leg.
Right.
Whereas before, when Jeet Kune Do was kind of coming around, it was almost anti-karate. And so it's one of those things where in my opinion, it has evolved to where I have to show different responses to different things because now there's different problems that have arisen, whether it's wrestling or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, that we now have to address this differently. We can still apply that Jeet Kune Do mindset.
Right.
But we have to understand that some of the moves that they did, and I've heard Guru Dan talk about it on a video where, they didn't contest the tap. It was they would wrestle and they wouldn't wrestle. They would just get through the submission and get the tap, but they wouldn't wrestle or jockey for position. And that's now such an integral part of like the grappling culture as it is now that we kind of have to acknowledge that. So what I did with my Jeet Kune Do curriculum and my Jeet Kune Do program at the dojo is I kind of open the door to more grappling. I don't make it a requirement, but I have grappling sections that are broken down. Most of it's borrowed from Sifu, Larry Hartzell and Guro Ron, obviously. And then kind of like, okay, wrestle for the position a little bit. You can't just have it. Like, cool, this is an arm bar. I need you to be able to perform the arm bar in a roll or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of what I would answer to them in the longest way possible.
On one of those interminable Facebook discussions that I get involved in from time to time, I saw somebody say, Jeet Kune Do can be anything. Yeah. What do you think of that?
I want to agree, but I have to disagree. Like, it's one of those things where,
why do you want to agree?
Well, because it is I really like the idea of the self-expression where, the simplicity will boil down to this that could be anything. So if but just take a step back from that, as Cjo Bruce would say, unless there's a new human that has 3 arms and 3 legs, people generally fight the same. But what changes that, I think, is the zeitgeist or like the spirit of the age, like back then versus now, are 2 different, eras in terms of how people fight. And you can, one thing I tell a lot of my students to do is to go to like Reddit or WorldStar, whatever they go to, and watch random people that are unskilled fight. And you can watch like that type of expression and be like, that could be Jeet Kune Do if that person knew what they were doing. But so the reason that's the reason why I want to agree with it, because I believe in that honest expression. Why I don't agree with it is because then it kind of loses its meaning entirely, which I think was kind of the purpose of Cjo Bruce had he lived longer. But it's one of those things that, because it doesn't have that original Junfang Gung Fu flavor, then it can't be anything.
Okay. Right. Good answer.
Yeah,
I'll tell everybody to sign up at your place.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. So listen, when did you get to Austin? Did you guys fly in today or?
I got here last night.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time, but so you said that ultimately you want to do this full time.
Yes.
So that's the future. That's part of what the future holds for Ed Stahl.
Yeah, I would say that's the goal, and I kind of want to get a little. So there's a little backing behind this. About 2 years ago, around this time, I was ready to close the doors of the school. Like, it was draining on me financially, physically, mentally, all of that. And then something very tragic happened in that Scott Shields passed away. This is actually, today is the 2nd anniversary of his passing.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was a wake-up call to many people, and myself included, was that, like, I can't stop, because it could be your day any day. And I was like, well, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep training. I'm going to keep doing this. And that has since been like a whirlwind of running the school and all that. But it's one of those things where I'm like, this is what I want to do, and it's going to take time to build there, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, it's what you were just talking about, the dichotomy and what have you. I mean, it's a little bit distressing, to be reminded that this is the anniversary of his passing. But then I think it's a good thing that we're actually having this discussion on that anniversary. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I saw the date and I was like, I think today, and I thanks to Facebook, but I was like, today's the day, 2 years ago. And I am really honored to be able to be on this platform and talk about Sifu Scott Shields. And I trained with him for a very short time. There are many others that trained with him much longer than I did that, we all lost a very important part of ourselves that day. Yeah. And so here we are 2 years later, and I can still talk about him, and, and it's great. And I like to think that he comes in and watches the school every now and again and all that, just not to get too sappy, but that he would be happy with where the school is at and all that, and where others have gone with it as well. Yeah.
All right. So, and that's the best place to get a hold of you, Metrolina martialarts.com.
Yeah, MetrolinaMartialArts.com is the best way to get hold of me on the website.
Are you on Instagram too?
Yeah, it's on Instagram as well at Metrolina Martial Arts, and then I have a personal. You can I'm available there too on Facebook as Ed Stahl, and on Instagram as well at Edimus. And so I'm definitely up to talk to whatever. If people want to have discussions on Jeet Kune Do and all that, that's all well and good. And if
they just got to fill out that form on your website, and then they'll
and then I'll call them right up. I'm like, hey.
Yeah. I'm gonna look into that and see. I mean, because I don't do much of anything with my website at all. Even though I still get probably about 10 inquiries per week, from the 3 websites that I have. So, even though I'm like semi-retired and what have you. All right. So, so let's finish up with this. Who should I have? Who should I invite onto the program?
Okay. So, I have a couple people that I would like to recommend.
You knew I was going to do this, huh?
I did. Someone whose name does not sound like Bon told me that I should have some names. So I'm going to shout out, of course, David Quigley. He got me into martial arts. He has a very dynamic background. He's currently training with, Guro Ron, and he's under Sifu Ron as well. So he's a good resource. Victor Young actually is a good one. He has a school in Bremerton, Washington, and he has an interesting background. He's trained with MKG and a bunch of other people, and currently trains with Guro Ron as well. And I'm going to stop at those 2 so I don't get in trouble. But that's another thing. Like, why didn't you tell about me?
Right? Yeah.
I'll stop with those 2.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, because people do that to me all the time. They go like, "How come you haven't had this person on yet?" And I'm like, because there are some people who are not interested.
Right.
There really are. There really are some people that are like, well, we can't trust that guy with the dreadlocks. He's going to try to make me look bad or something.
Make me look one of those Inasana guys.
Yeah. Anyhow, all right. Well, listen. Say thank you to your lovely wife on my behalf for letting me spend some time with you, right? And but keep it in mind, see the world. Forget Balicki every once in a while.
Absolutely, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right. But I'll give him my best regards. Say hello to everybody for me. All right.
I will for sure.
Okay, man. You take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, there we go. That was episode 114 of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues with Ed Stahl. Like I said, check him out on Instagram at metrolinamartialarts.com and on Facebook. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so feel free, share, like, comment, ask questions. I'm sure that Sifu Ed will go through the comments and answer anything that's directed at him, and I'll review everything after post. And follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods, at ilovejeetkundo.com. Quick Skill Series Volume 1 is still available. Volume 2 will be produced during 2020. Coming up around this time, next Friday, March 13th, Friday the 13th, episode 115 with Zane Isaacs of Championship MMA. And I'm pretty sure we'll be on daylight savings time, but it'll still be at 6 p.m. Right? Okay, so I'll see some of you back here next Friday. Hopefully I'll see some of you next Wednesday on the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. But until then, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. Enjoy your weekend. You guys take care now.
All right, welcome back once more to the Martial Arts Association video YouTube channel. Thanks for coming to check us out. If this is your first time, please give us a look. If you're coming back, thanks again for coming to see us again. And so today what we have is what we call the Hooba video, or the Hooba transition video. So we're going to show you several different drills in the Hooba series, as well as transitions and how to get to and from the right and the left side. So I got my man Sifu Ed Stahl here. He's going to help me out. He's my JKD instructor, and we're going to kind of run you guys through these. Hopefully you like it, get something out of it, and then make sure you rep them out. All right, see you in the video. All right, everybody, so as promised, we're going to go ahead and throw in some Hooba drills for you. So we're going to go ahead and go through some variables. We're going to start off with what we call the high line, or the upper area, and then we're going to move into transition into a more of a straight area. So we're going to start off really simple with the high line area, so it's going to be really easy, kind of like a windmill. And so we're just going to kind of go, and we're just taking this by. This is called Pelasut, or to let it go by. And now Sifu Ed's going to take us into another variable, the same line, humpak by was. So I stop and I roll. And I'll take you to the next one. So it's just Sigum. You just stop the energy. Okay? You're just blocking, like high blocking karate in my opinion. And then we can take it back to any one of the variables. Just takes it by. Traditionally, I would call this like windmill Hooba. It just kind of look like a windmill. One thing I see that I don't want you guys to do at home is I don't want when we go back to standard, I don't want your time to be so broken where it's like this and then there's a long gap. I would like it to be kind of equals, so it's kind of flowy. Otherwise it doesn't fit. And we're going to jump into what we call highline Hooba, okay? And so we stop the energy, bring it around, trap, and then I chop. Okay? And this is just the framework, or the highline Hooba by itself. Okay? And we have a couple ways to switch this from right to left. Notice right now he's attacking on his right, and I'm attacking on my right. That's my right hand with the fancy hand brace. So what I'll do is I'll stop it, I'll grab this, I'll flip it over, and I'll chop with my left, which forces him to switch sides. And now we train the other side of the body. Now I'm attacking with my left, I'm blocking with my right. So we get to learn both sides of this drill. And I'll put us back. So right here, I bring it, I flip it over, and I just attack on my own. So I'm creating the transition. Okay? Another way to transition in high line is as soon as he makes his defense, I shoot my X under his X, I clear the line, and I trap. Or I attack. So I make sure I trap right there, and I pull it across, and I get that trap there, and now I attack. And that put me back on the main side. And again, if I wanted, I could go right back to the previous one, and then you could take it right back to here. And now Ed's going to take us into straight Hooba.
Okay, so from here, what you want to do is you pull back, fire the hand, and you parry. Parry, bridge, pop. I equate it to JKD. I parry, I make a bridge, and I pop. So parry, bridge, pop, punch.
has much nicer hair than I do, and when I teach this to my students, what I say is to style their hair to help them out, so they get this kind of motion where they don't push down and be down here. It's all up in the face. I like this drill because it creates what we call controlled chaos. There's a lot of stuff happening in front of your face, and you're not backing up. So you just get used to this, and our eyes are open. We're not like doing that, okay? So that's your straight Hooba. Now in straight Hooba, we have transitions from right to left as well. So as we're here, you want the first one?
Sure. So the first one, again, I'm going to use JKD terms is the Hun style, where when he punches, I scoop and fire my own. And then now we're on the other side. I guess this would be the punch. Leave it?
Yep.
So again, when he punches, I scoop and punch. Now I'll do it a couple times in flight.
Notice we stay connected. He doesn't flick or waslick my hand away where we lose connection. Actually, when he padlibas, I stay linked, so otherwise I get punched in the face. Okay, another one we can go ahead and do is we call a pass check change. So I pass that energy, I check that second hand, and now I punch. And he's forced to switch to the other side because I have that hand checked. So as I go, I pass, I check, and then I change. And I actually say it in flight. I'll go like, pass, check, change. Helps me remember when I'm training. Pass, check, change. Okay? And then another one you can play with, one of my all-time favorites, is we call a back fist destruction change. So what's going to happen is I'm going to stop the energy. I'm going to come with a back fist at his face. Okay? JKD terms, watch away, right? I'm going to wedge, I slap, and now I punch on the other side. It's probably the most complicated transition I know, but it's also my favorite because there's a lot of forward energy, a lot of kind of feeling, and it's a lot of fun. So I'll slow it down again, stop it, back fist him in the face. He should block himself, okay? From there I wedge. Remember, this is a beauty to the eyes. Trap, and then punch. And again, if I want to take this back to the earlier ones, we could go back, or we can go back. And we can go back to any version we want. So when you train your Hoobas, it should go back and forth. You should be able to kind of play and not have to worry about, oh, is it right or left? Is it left or right? Is it high or low? It's just whatever you want. Cool. So there you have a couple different Hooba transitions. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to kind of play and then kind of flow. Part of Hooba is just like in trapping, I believe, where you're trying to tie them up. Okay? So I'm trying to get them all discombobulated so we can't fight back. And Ed's more of a master at that than I am for sure. But Hooba is in Filipino martial arts just like it's in JKD. We do it in both arts, so I kind of know it from both sides. So we're just going to play, and then we're going to let you kind of watch just how this kind of unfolds. And we're going to see if we can get him tied up to where we can score a strike. And then we'll go from there. Be nice.
I'll try.
I messed up. So there you have a few of the drills in the JKD Hooba series, the transition drills. And we also, like I said, we use these in Filipino martial arts, which is where I get more of my trapping, and then I'm learning from him on the JKD trapping. Any closing statements?
No, this is an awesome coordination drill. You get a lot of reps really, really fast. That's why I really like it.
Yeah.
All right, time for the question of the day. What does Hooba mean? Do you know?
I do know that one.
I'm glad. I don't.
All right, and once again, thank you for getting all the way to the end of the video. We do appreciate it. If you're getting value from these things, please smash that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel. Also, if you like this stuff, please share with your family and friends. Let them know where you're getting some of your cool ideas, and maybe they know what Hooba means. I don't know, maybe.
Right.
Other than that, please also, if you like the video, please hit that like button. Again, thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll see you around.